Hello, how's it going, everybody? Welcome into Spencer Talks NASCAR. I'm your host, Spencer Urquhart, getting ready for a brand new episode going through the top 10 Cup Series drivers. Y'all going to do our power rankings early in this episode. We're going to just cut to the chase. Don't feel like recapping Phoenix, man. What a disaster race as far as from a fan's perspective. From a racer's perspective, it was a very square deal. Christopher Bell won fair and square. Shout out to him. Ran a great race. If you're a C-Bell fan, obviously very pleased, but just from just a neutral observers / Kyle Busch fan perspective, just not very good. I try to go into these things with a more neutral perspective now, being I'm doing this podcast and stuff, but I'm still a Kyle Busch fan at heart. So that the Kyle Busch fan in me will come out from time to time. And the fact that he sucked at Phoenix definitely didn't make the race any more enjoyable for me. But I've heard a lot of even non-Kyle Busch fans complain about the race not being too good, the short track package being rough. It's a mess, but we'll save that topic for another day as far as the package and all that. Let's just get into we'll recap it real quick, put it to bed, and then get to the power rankings. We're going to make this a short and sweet episode. We'll wait till the next one later in the week to go more in depth. This one just going to be wham, bam, thank you, man. We're going to make it short and sweet. So let's get right into it here, y'all. Let's go over those results from Phoenix. Just, man, just so many Toyotas, man. They just freaking dominated. And I guess you could say I'm a jaded KB fan, but I like to see parity throughout the field. And normally this next gen cars produce that, but I don't know what happened at Phoenix. The Toyotas they really hit on the setup. They had been struggling at Phoenix in the next gen car era. The past 4 Phoenix races, I don't think a Toyota finished in the top 5. Like, it was just really just been a struggle for JGR and company, but they nailed it this past week. Christopher Bell dominates, leads 50 laps, especially at the end. He really caught fire. Throughout the early parts, it was a Denny Hamlin and Tyler Reddick going back and forth, and then they kind of got into each other there, and they kind of just blew it. They blew their opportunities to win. But yeah, Christopher Bell, really strong there, got the dub. Chris Buescher made a huge comeback to finish second. Him and his teammate Brad Keselowski recorded top 5s there. Much needed strong efforts from them. Ford had 3 of the top 5. Ryan Blaney running strong yet again. He was my pick to win. Unfortunately, didn't get it done for him, but he still ran really good. Didn't have quite the race-winning speed, but he was up there. Him and Ross Chastain, another strong day. Martin Truex, he was in a pretty good position there. Looked like he might steal the win if he could stretch out his fuel mileage, but he ended up having to pit there at the end. And then Michael McDowell and Chase Briscoe sneaking in top 10s. I was like, I see a double. No more Chris Buescher. But Chris Buescher got second place. He really showed out despite not leading any laps. Those RFK cars, they nailed the strategy, got up front at the end, and they stayed there. So hats off to them. Then Reddick and Hamlin, 10th and 11th, pretty disappointing considering they tied for the most laps led, but at least it wasn't a total disaster for those guys. And then Noah Gragson almost cracks the top 10 again. And the amigo Daniel Suarez, a decent day. Kyle Larson, just a very mid day for Kyle Larson. Thought he'd do better as the pre-race favorite, but it was kind of off. I'm glad I didn't pick him. I almost did, but I was like, nah, I don't think he's going to do it 2 weeks in a row. And then Carson Hocevar, a good day there, top 15. He has been the most impressive rookie so far by far. So good stuff there from Hocevar. Bubba Wallace, kind of a mad day. Todd Gilliland led some laps there. I mean, he redeemed himself. He is off to a very odd start. He had led a lot of laps the first 2 weeks. Didn't have any good finishes to show for it, but gets a much needed top 20 this week. And William Byron and Chase Elliott, disappointing efforts. They were running well for a lot of the day, but ended up shuffled back there. And then as well as Alex Bowman, just a bad day for Hendrick. Overall, they were off on the setup today. Then Ricky Stenhouse, Kyle Busch, just a total disaster for him. He was the first car a lap down. It looked like he got going a tad bit at the end, but just definitely too little, too late there. KB, a really disappointing day. RCR just way off. terrible effort. Let's be real. I mean, they were just bad from jump. They qualified bad. They raced bad. It was pitiful. As a Kyle Busch fan, I expect better. That was a piss poor effort, if I must say so myself. And I don't think it was really his fault. I mean, it's just once again, freaking Richard Childress Racing, man. They're just, I don't know. I'm just starting to think RCR is not on the level of these elite teams. And I mean, shoot, like I said last week, go back to last week's episode at the end talking about silly season, and where someone had brought up Kyle Busch's contract being shorter than I realized. And if that's the case, don't be shocked if he's wanting to hit free agency again, because man, he did not have a good car day with RCR. But I don't think it's time to hit the panic button just yet on Kyle Busch. There's only 4 races in. The first 3 races he ran well, so give it time before we say he's going to jump ship. But just saying, they got to do better. And let's see, Priest, he's not done well. His Stewart Haas teammates, I mean, Gregson and Briscoe, they've been making the most of that equipment. Priest, though, and Josh Berry have just not. They have sucked so far. Really bad starts for them this season. They had Justin Haley, 24th, a little bit better there in that Rick Ware car. Made up a little ground. And John Hunter Nemechek, kind of, Harrison Burton, Hemrick, Zane Smith, Kaz Grala, Eric Jones. Eric Jones must have had a problem because he was running fairly okay for most of the race, I feel like, but he must have had some sort of issue there at the end that put him several laps down. Same with Austin Dillon. Man, what a disaster start for him, man. Austin Dillon. Yeah, he is. How much longer can they keep putting up with him at RCR? I mean, Kyle Busch has got to be getting frustrated because I don't think he's getting any useful information out of Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon, that's not a very good teammate as far as a racer. He might be a good guy as far as like a guy, it's, a good team guy and all that. But as far as a talent, Austin Dillon he is lacking it, in my opinion. But anyway, then the last 4 all got DNF'd. Corey LaJoie got caught up in the incident with Joey Logano, who got punted by a John Hunter Nemechek. They were kind of in the mid-pack there and then got caught up. The Derek Kraus colleague car, an innocent bystander. And Austin Cindric hadn't even turned on the race yet at this point. Apparently, Austin Cindric crashed out on lap 6. I missed that. I don't know exactly what happened with that, but tough break for Cindric. His season has fallen off after starting off very well through the first 2 weeks. But kind of figured that, man. He was not very good other than at the drafting tracks last year. So more the same for Cindric so far. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Let's get to these power rankings here, y'all. The top 10 Cup Series drivers, got them down here. I'll start off with my honorable mentions. Some guys that I'd like to shout out. Bubba Wallace, even though he didn't run that well, he's still, I mean, he's got a Toyota. He was the weakest of the big 6 Toyotas, but driving for Toyota, he's bound to do better. I still think he'll eventually get back in the top 10. Noah Gragson, got to shout out Noah Gragson. He has been running very well for Stewart Haas Racing. You can't ignore that. That's now 3 of the first 4 races inside the top 12. So very good start for him. He has been very impressive in what is considered to be not that great of equipment, but he's making the most of it. Chase Elliott, he didn't do enough to get back in the top 10. He was on pace to do really well. He was running top 5 a lot of the day, but got shuffled back and didn't make up the spots he lost. And Chris Buescher, he had gotten off to kind of a tough start, but then got the much needed second place finish in this one. So he's back in the consideration for the top 10. And Daniel Suarez, he's the only driver that fell out of last week's top 10. He, not really his fault, just, didn't run quite well enough to get back in the top 10. They've got so many guys running well right now. Let's get into it. I have the ticker down here. As we'll see, we'll go 10-1. So as you'll see, that's the full list. And then we'll start once it gets to number 10. Pretty much all Chevys and Toyotas up in here, but Ryan Blaney still near the top. So, all right, now our number 10 rated driver, he drops 2 spots. Not really any fault of his own, just goes to show how strong the field is right now. Martin Truex Jr., had he been able to stretch out the fuel miles and get the win, I'm sure he'd wouldn't have dropped any. But I feel like I got to drop him a little bit because he seemed like he was the worst of the Toyotas as far as those top five. I feel like Bell, Ty Gibbs, Hamlin, and Reddick all had more consistent speed than Truex. I mean, Truex was on a strategy. That's the only reason he led the 55 laps that he did. So I think that 19 team's a tad bit behind. His colleagues are colleagues there at JGR, but he's not that far off. He's still on pace to have a strong year. So not panicking about Martin Truex by any means. I mean, he's very good in the points standings right now too. So a lot of y'all probably think I'm sleeping on him, but I mean, I was down on him before the start of the season. So he's going to have to really impress me for me to think that he's on track for a big year, because he had the big year last year and then fizzled in the playoffs. And I was just concerned that that bad momentum down the stretch is going to trickle over into this year. But so far it hadn't. He's been pretty solid so far. Number 9, Kyle Busch, our biggest faller in the rankings, down 4 spots. He was 5th last week, now 9th. I thought about dropping KB out completely, but I don't think it's time to panic that much, because he still managed to at least get it home. I mean, 22nd stinks, but I mean, at least he didn't completely total the car after spinning out and stuff. At least he made up some spots at the end. And I mean, he was really good through the first 3 weeks. So to me, the biggest concern to me with Kyle Busch is just the frantic pit crew changes they've been making. I mean, and they freaking brought guys. I mean, it's only 3 races in. I feel like Richard Childress is kind of panicking too soon about that. It's like, you hired these pit crew guys before the season to be changing tires and giving fuel to your best driver, and now you're just completely overhauling the deal. I don't really like that. I don't know what's going on over there. I feel like it's getting a little concerning. I'm getting concerned, and I just, man, they just don't seem to be on the level of JGR and Hendrick. They just don't. And I know Kyle Busch is a hell of a talent. I've watched him his whole career. He's impressed me many a times, but let's just be real. When Kyle Busch overdrives a car, it can get ugly, because he is the type that if he doesn't have the speed, he's going to try to make up for it, whether he gets caught speeding on pit road or he's spinning out trying to make up for lost time, because he's the kind of guy that always wants to run up front. He's got that competitor. He's that competitor. He's got that dog in him. He's still got that. So that's why I'm saying, if RCR isn't giving him good equipment, I'm going to keep saying it probably the rest of the year. Don't be shocked if he starts to look for a different opportunity, and be in that other opportunity, most likely a JGR reunion, even though I know a lot of y'all probably think there's no way he'd go back. It ended ugly, but I don't think it ended as ugly as the media made it out to be. I mean, I don't think it obviously didn't end well, but I don't think it ended with him like hating Coach Gibbs. I mean, it wasn't on the best of terms, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's business. Like, I don't think it was really any. I mean, Kyle, I think, may have took it a little personal, but we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. I know I'm jumping the gun. You're probably like, it's 2024. Get your ass back on track, and I will, because it's way too early to speculate about that. All I know is that I want to see Kyle Busch running well and running up front, and I just hope RCR is able to give him the equipment that will allow him to do so. All right, next up on the list, our new driver. I've been resisting putting him in the top 10, but I got to do it, y'all. Ty Gibbs. Let's be real. Ty Gibbs, ever since we've gotten past the drafting tracks, Ty Gibbs has killed it, man. He was really strong last week at Las Vegas. He was my best bet to finish top 10. He finished top 5. And then this week it's top 3. Like, what? Ty Gibbs, man, killing it so far in his sophomore year. No sophomore slump for Ty Gibbs. Granted, his rookie year was a tad disappointing in JGR equipment. A lot of people thought he'd make the playoffs as a rookie, but I mean, he almost did. I mean, he had a decent rookie season. He wasn't a disaster. I mean, he was respectable. And so now that he's got more experience under his belt, it's looking like he's getting stronger and stronger. So as much as I don't really care for the kid, I mean, he freaking took Kyle Busch's old car, and he's now starting to do right by it and run up front, make it his own. Shoot, like 57 laps, very strong effort there from Ty Gibbs. He's he's worthy. He's worthy now, I gotta say. He's earned it. NASCAR.com, I don't know why they were so high on him throughout the year, but right now they're glad that he's come through for him, because I was kind of roasting him a few weeks ago for having him in the top 10, but I got to put him in there now. I got to do it. All right, number 7, Tyler Reddick. I thought about moving him up some, but man, Tyler Reddick, again, man, he got to keep squandering opportunities, man. 23-11 is not quite on that championship level yet. You know, I was just saying about RCR not being quite there. 23-11, Reddick, he's got a lot of speed, but it's too many mistakes still. Too many mistakes with Tyler Reddick for me to be convinced he's a top 5 driver. I think by years in, though, he could get there. He was a preseason championship 4 pick of mine. So I still think there's hope that they get that thing better. But right now, I can't quite put him top 5. Number 6, Ross Chastain drops a couple spots. Not really his fault. I mean, he ran pretty good at Phoenix. The thing is, that 6th place finish, a tad deceiving. He ran outside the top 10 a lot of the day. So his speed wasn't there. He had so much speed here last year. I don't know what happened this year. I mean, he wasn't terrible, but he just wasn't up to snuff as far as being in contention for the win. He nailed the strategy, but I don't know. They just didn't seem quite as good. He was my alternate pick to win, but he didn't really come close. Blaney had a better car than him throughout most of the day, but not time to panic. I mean, still 6th place finish, very strong. Chastain's in a good points position, so yeah, he'll be fine moving forward. Number 5, Denny Hamlin moves up 1 from last week. I think Hamlin is, even though he didn't finish quite where he wanted to, I mean, I think Hamlin is still very much in the elite category, even though he's getting up in age. I mean, he's still got it. He just seems so driven. Like, he seems almost like, he just seems like it's in better shape, better mental space as far as just being more. I mean, the podcast stuff might throw him off a little bit, but I feel like he's done a good job at not letting that bother him too much. I mean, he gets the results. I mean, let's be real. He always gets the results. He usually backs up what he talks. I mean, not always, though. I mean, sometimes he gets the best of himself sometimes, but I feel like as a whole, he does a good job with it. So he's not quite in the top 4, but he's knocking on the door. You know, he won the Bristol Fall race last year, headed to Bristol this week, by the way. So we'll have more on that later in the week. But yeah, Denny Hamlin looking good lately. Number 4, William Byron moved down a couple spots. I think Willie B is just fine, but you know, didn't get the result he wanted at Phoenix and just doesn't seem quite as fast as his teammate Kyle Larson, but he's still really good. I mean, he's front 4. I feel like these were last year's championship 4, and they're all elite again this season. And in our biggest riser, number 3, Christopher Bell, up 7 spots. I'm glad I didn't drop him out of the top 10 last week. Boy, would I have looked foolish. At least I kept him in there. I was foolish for dropping him as much as I did, because I mean, one bad race, probably shouldn't have dropped him that much, because he freaking killed it at Phoenix. Took over at the end, hit on the setup at the end, dominated the last 50 laps or so, went on to win that thing. So yeah, he freaking drove his way up through the field. And yeah, even if Truex would have stretched it on field, I feel like Bell still would have won. Just he was rolling through. He killed it. So yeah, he's definitely a top 5 driver. The rest of the way, I would think, don't see him falling out anytime soon, unless Toyota would suddenly lose their mojo, which, I mean, this is very competitive field. I mean, Chevy and Ford, Chevy dominated the first 3 weeks, and then Ford's been better lately. So don't take anything for granted, but I feel like C. Bell is probably the best position to Toyota at the moment, especially since he's got a victory on his resume. Number 2, Ryan Blaney. This dude's been tough as nails this season. I believe 3 straight top 5s now. He's just the epitome of consistency. He looked pretty worn out after the race. Admitted he didn't have quite the car he wanted, but muscled it home to a 5th place finish. And he's been knocking on the door of victory lane week after week now. And I think it's going to happen here soon. A defending Cup Series champion picking up where he left off from last season. And number 1, Kyle Larson, kept Larson at number 1 despite his lackluster effort at Phoenix. I feel like he'll bounce back this week at Bristol and didn't want to react too much. I still feel like Kyle Larson's the best in the garage right now. He is my championship pick. So until he would have a true slump, I feel like he is worthy of being at the top of my power rankings. So that's the list, y'all. Larson leads it there. They'll see it scrolling down. Ryan Blaney, number 2, Christopher Bell, number 3, William Byron, number 4, Denny Hamlin, number 5, Ross Chastain, number 6, Tyler Reddick, number 7, Ty Gibbs, number 8, Kyle Busch, number 9, and Martin Truex Jr., number 10. I believe that is, wow, it's 5 Toyotas in there now. Yep, Bell, Hamlin, Reddick, Gibbs, Truex. Yep, 5 Toyotas, 4 Chevys with Larson, Byron, Chastain, and Busch, and then the Blaney to Ford. So, yep. All right, let's do stock up, stock down. Now, that'll be our new segment for this episode of Spencer Talks NASCAR. We're going to transition over here. We're going to pull up the point standings now to go over that. Got to have the cup point standings here. All right, point standings. Let's get it. Wow, Ryan Blaney, our new points leader. So we gave him his due diligence on the rankings. So, wow, Tyler Reddick up 7. I could have put him in the stock up. But let's go over our stock up, stock down deal here. We'll go over to the standings here real quick first, though. Tyler Reddick now top 5. He's been killing it. Ty Gibbs up to 6. Chastain down a couple spots. Hamlin in the top 10. Elliott, Suarez, Kyle Busch all dropped. Christopher Bell up 9. I believe he's this week's biggest riser in the standings. Bowman and Bubba hanging on the playoff spots. Austin Cindric down a bunch. Chris Buescher and Michael McDowell on the rise. Eric Jones dropped out of the playoffs. Right now the playoff cutoff is McDowell and Jones, both 2 points behind Buescher for the 16th spot. Then we got Briscoe, Stenhouse, JHN, Brad Keselowski up a lot, 6 spots. And Corey LaJoie down 6 spots. Carson Hocevar, the highest rookie. Daniel Hemrick drops 6. Noah Gregson, after the penalty, rising up 8 spots to 26. And Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland up 4. Justin Haley. Damn, Joey Logano, what a disaster. 30th in points after 4 races. Not the start he won. He's almost getting at a freaking, how many is he out of 16 now? A lot. Freaking over 30 out of the playoffs. 35 out of the playoffs. So Joey Logano, I'm not going to say he's in must-win territory yet, but he needs to get going or he's going to end up in that spot. Then Josh Berry, rough start. Austin Dillon, Zane Smith, Kaz Grala, and Ryan Preece after the penalty, buried down in 35th. So let's go over our stock up, stock down here. My guys that I feel are going up the most. Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs, talked about them in the power rankings. Could have included Reddick too, because, I mean, they're all just so fast right now after kind of rough starts to the year. Didn't really have the Daytona and Atlanta runs they were hoping for. But as of late, those guys have been killing it, and they're showing that right now. Toyota has arguably the best overall stuff at these intermediate tracks, which Phoenix is, I guess, considered intermediate. I mean, I kind of think of it as short tracks and it's only 1 mile, but Toyota just freaking dominated there. And let's be real, that's important because Phoenix is the last race of the year, the championship race. So if we've got a Toyota or 2 or maybe even 3 in the championship 4, they're going to probably have a little leg up. So we'll see. But anyway, I wanted to mention that for sure. They're for sure stock up guys. But outside of that, man, just a bunch of Ford guys get stocks up. Chris Buescher, he's a big riser in the standings. He's up into the top 16 now after a tough start. Him and Brad Keselowski, man, those top 5 finishes they got at Phoenix were much, much needed. And I feel like now that the RFK is back on track, they'll now be able to, they want it to be chasing points as much. They'll be able to focus more on just getting good runs as opposed to trying some like wonky strategies to get up there. I mean, they've got solid speed, but they're kind of in that tier with RCR and 2311s. They're not quite at the level of the big dogs, but they're still dangerous. I still think they could get there. I picked Buescher and Keselowski to make the playoffs before the season. I'll stand on that. I think they're still in good shape. And then Michael McDowell, top 10 finish. Front Row Motorsports as a whole gets a stock up because they struggled at Las Vegas, but they had a lot better deal going at Phoenix. Ty Gilliland got a top 20. Could throw him on this list too. But McDowell's the one that really ran well. He got the top 10 and is now almost into the playoffs, only a couple points behind Busher for 16th, So, and then Hocevar ran good again. Carson Hocevar, Noah Gregson, Chase Briscoe, all names you could throw in that mix that ran well at Phoenix. So that is our guys that are trending up, stocks up. Let's go over stock down now. And I got to lead it off with Kyle Busch. I piled on him in the power rankings, and I'm not going to spend too much more time on him. But yeah, it's just not what you wanted to see, especially after last year with RCR struggling at these shorter ovals. They thought they'd have more of a solution, but it looked just like more of the same problems. And then the pit crew stuff is a concern. So, yeah, definitely stock down for Kyle Busch. Joey Logano, I was like, at least he's not in Joey Logano's shoes because, Kyle Busch still in position to make the playoffs on points. Joey Logano is getting into desperation territory. 30th in points through 4 races. This is our 2022 Cup Series champion. What is going on with Logano? I feel like throughout Joey Logano's career, he's been kind of like hit or miss. I don't know what it is. I feel like when he's on, he's really on. He's right up there with the best of them. When he's off, he just gets in a rut, man. I remember the season a few years ago where he just like completely missed the playoffs. So I don't know if that'll be one of those kind of years, but it's not been good though for Joey Logano, that's for sure. He ran really good at the plate tracks, but these intermediates have not treated him very well. He had the pole last week, was kind of underwhelming. He at least finished the race and did okay, but this week just was struggling again, got caught up in a wreck. So a lot of it's been bad luck, but also some his own doing. He just hadn't run well enough, so we'll see if he can bounce back. I'm not writing him off yet. I still think he can make the playoffs because I think he'll win a race still between now and the cutoff date for the playoffs, but you don't want to keep digging yourself in a hole. He needs to get some good runs going here soon. And his teammate Austin Cindric, big stock down as well after a strong start. He has not been handling business lately. I don't think the Phoenix thing is really his fault. He kind of just got wiped out early, just kind of happened. But yeah, he's got to do better though with these intermediates. We'll see if he can. He's in good equipment. Ryan Blaney's a freaking points lead, and Cindric and Logano have no excuse. Their Team Penske teammate is killing it each and every week. He's been freaking flying the Team Penske banner, and the other guys are just spinning their wheels. So Logano and Cindric have got to step up their games moving forward. Also got Alex Bowman on here. He's just been, other than that second place finish at Daytona, he has not run well. He has been mid. He hadn't been awful, but hadn't been anywhere near race winning speed. And when you're driving for Hendrick Motorsports, like, you want to be in contention to win. And Bowman has been anything but a contender for wins. So they've got a lot of work to do on that 48. And then Josh Berry, man, I don't know what's going on over there. That 4 team, like, what? They were still a solid team last year with Kevin Harvick. I don't know if they took a bunch of the guys from his team and put them on Gregson's team, because Noah Gragson has been the best Stewart-Haas car so far. And then Chase Briscoe, he's been pretty respectable too. As a Priest and the Josh Berry have been freaking garbage this year. I don't know what's going on there with the other 2 Stewart-Haas cars, but they've got to get those things turned around, or else if Stewart-Haas decides that, like I mentioned last episode, if they downsize and sell a charter or 2, I think it's safe to say that Briscoe and Gregson are going to stick around, and that Berry and Priest would be first up. I would think Priest would be the most vulnerable in Berry. I think they'd give Berry at least one more year, considering he was like the hand-picked replacement to replace Kevin Harvick. But so far, that transition is not going well. That 4 car looks anything but the strong car that it was with future Hall of Famer Kevin Harvick behind the wheel. So that's our stock down. Some other names to bring up. Corey LaJoy. He got caught up in the wreck there, and after the plate tracks hadn't been quite as strong. And Eric Jones had a rough day at Phoenix. He fell out of the top 16. And Austin Dillon has just been terrible start the season. Terrible. Tough start for RCR. Kyle Busch hadn't been that. He got off to the good start, so I can't say overall RCR has been that bad. But Austin Dillon, just not up to snuff. They're gonna have to do better for sure. So anyway, yeah, that's it for this one, y'all. Appreciate everyone that is here watching. We're gonna end it here. I'm not gonna ramble on any longer. We're gonna call it an episode, and we'll be back later in the week to preview Bristol. We'll catch y'all then. Peace out.